I'm Cassie Dessuit, and this is Developing with Respect. As a software developer, it's hard to find a process that applies to the projects I work on. Respect consists of 4 phases that are fundamental to any software process. These phases include research, prototype, create, and test. The Respect model is very similar to the waterfall and sashimi models. In fact, Respect is originally derived from using these models previously. However, the 2 models mentioned were limiting in their own ways. For example, with the waterfall model, you are unable to move backwards through the phases. With the sashimi model, while you can move backwards, you are usually limited to only moving back 1 phase. The sashimi model also includes extra phases, which may not be relevant for smaller projects. Like the sashimi model, Respect can move back and forth throughout the different phases. However, you are not limited to moving back by only 1 phase. Respect uses a technique I like to call the loop effect, which is a way of returning to previous phases through other phases after matching certain criteria, much like a loop. The loop effect works by returning to a previous stage, checking the necessary items, and then returning to the next previous stage if still applicable. For example, as a developer, you are currently in the create stage when you notice that one of the requirements is set to endanger the delivery date. To fix your issue, you decide to go back to your customer and suggest an alternative approach. To move from create to research, you would first start by returning to the prototype phase to check if there's anything in the prototype that could offer an alternative. From there, you would return to the research phase, suggest your alternative to the client, and on approval, move back through the phases. Research for the iPhone application started with requirements gathering. As I was playing the role of both client and developer, I knew exactly what I wanted in the application, and I could create realistic requirements that fit my time frame and programming abilities. Requirements for this project included create a working prototype for the application, include 5 movie questions ranging from easy to hard, have something happen whenever a wrong answer is selected, allow them to go back to a previous question, allow them to skip a question, allow the user to answer questions again after they have all been answered, test the application thoroughly. These tests should include answering a question correctly and incorrectly, returning to a previous question, starting the game from the finish page, and skipping a question. All of these, including prototype, creation, and testing, should be finished within a 3-week time frame. The time frame made it easy. It gave me each session or each phase 1 week to complete. If one phase finished early, it gave me extra time at the end, just in case anything happened. The second phase of Respect is prototyping. A prototype is an example of how a program should work. Prototypes can be drawings on a napkin or a fully functional design. For this phase, I used a program called iRise. iRise is a very robust prototyping tool. You can use it to prototype web applications, websites, mobile and computer applications. The list is endless. This program is super powerful and super easy to use. To start the prototype, I started by creating a scenario. From there, I added the 7 pages I knew I would need, which included start, finish, and then individual pages for each question, along with the logic each question needed. The scenario tool in iRise is helpful because it creates placeholders for the pages I added to that scenario. Once the pages were created, I added my design. As you can see, I stayed with a basic design. Each question page includes a question, 4 possible answers, a back button, and a skip button. Originally in the prototype, whenever a wrong answer was chosen, the answer would turn red. Due to time constraints, however, this was changed to a pop-up instead. Each answer links to a decision page. The decision page is basic if-else logic. If the answer is correct, move on to the next question. If it's not, return to the question page and produce a pop-up, or in this prototype, change the button to red. Now I'm just going to go over a brief example of how the prototype works. You start by running the application. That opens up in a browser. You just click Start. There's the question. See if the wrong answer, it turns it red. However, in the new application, it produces a pop-up. And there it is. Once the answers once the game is finished, you're taken to a finish page, and from there, you can start the game over, or you can quit. With a prototype in hand, I started developing the iPhone application. I relied on the prototype to guide how the application was developed, and it turned out to be pretty close. I used the storyboard function of Xcode, which allows you to drag and drop elements and components onto the page to make it easier as design. From there, you go into the back end of each individual page, and then you add the functionality that you want. For the movie game, I added the pop-up for every wrong answer. As you can see, there is currently a placeholder for the pop-up that just says message. So when this application is run and compiled, the simulator will pop up as wrong answer and then message. You won't have a message. To change that, I just added the paragraph and text that I wanted to show whenever a wrong answer was provided. So now I changed it to, you've guessed the wrong answer, try again. Now when this is ran and compiled, the simulator will pop up, the wrong answer will be given, and the user will be shown a pop-up that says, wrong answer, you've guessed the wrong answer, try again. The final phase of ResPCT is testing. Testing is an important part of every program, software, everything, quality assurance and everything. Here I'm just going over a testing platform called Frank. I'm just going over the quick feature files. I'm using given, when, then statements. So given I'm on this page, when I press this button, then I should say this page. It's basic. There's a little bit of coding that goes into it, but right now I'm just going to go over the features. So I have 6 feature files. I have launch, which is basically launching the application. I have the start feature. I have one that answers the questions all correctly. I have a feature that answers the questions all incorrectly. I have a feature for skipping and returning to a question. And then I have a feature for starting the game from the finish. So 6 basic features. It covers all of my requirements for testing. And now I'm going to go into step definitions. Step definitions are just Ruby files. It is Ruby code telling you what to do, what to look for. So for this one, given I'm on a page, it looks for a navigation item marked with whatever you're looking for. These are the launch steps. This is just telling the application and the Ruby to launch the simulator. Next is my win file. These all correspond with the tests that I've provided or that I've created. Each one look for specific elements on the page. Last but not least, the then file. This is the last step in the given, when, then. And again, it's literally just each then statement corresponds with a feature. And now we get to test. I just run Cucumber from my terminal or console. It relaunches the application and then it starts the tests from scratch. This part takes a very long time. I apologize. There we go, the movie game is relaunched. And the tests begin. So as it's running through, it's doing the feature that tests all the correct answers. You see that the tests are all green. Green means that they've passed. There are 3 other colors associated with Frank. Red obviously means that the test has failed. Blue means that it can't find the feature, and yellow means that it has found the feature, it just has not been created fully yet. Luckily, we have all green so far. So now I'm testing all of the wrong answers. This part takes the longest because there are 5 questions. Each question has 3 wrong answers. That's 15 tests. So now we've finished testing all the wrong answers. We just want to test that we can skip and return to previous questions and obviously start the game from the finish page. So we just returned to a question and skipped a question. And our 26 scenarios have all passed. We have tested this application vigorously. It is all in the green. I'm so excited. Now we get to move on to localization. As a bonus for this project, I decided to localize it. To localize simply means to make available in another language. To do this, all I had to do was make sure that I added my localization languages. From there, it created a string file in English, which is the base language, and then that I can take that file and translate it into the languages that I wanted. I decided to use the 3 most popular languages in the world, which are English, Chinese, and Spanish. And then I also chose French because we are just south of a French-speaking country, Canada. So to add my localization, I just click on the Add button, and then whatever language I wanted to add. I've already added the 3 extra languages that I wanted, so that I don't need to add those. But from there, all I do is I go to my storyboard, and I can choose whatever language I want. So here we have Chinese. As you can see, the green is the English sentence, the red is the translated sentence. To translate, I just went to Google Translate and put in my sentences and my words. So here's French, and here's Spanish. We also have the error message for whenever a wrong answer is given. That is just located under the localizable string file. Now English, here's my message. You've chosen the wrong answer, please try again. I just translated this into the 3 other languages, French, Spanish, and Chinese, and then I incorporated it into my controller files. So right here, if you click on this message, is the localized string variable. So right here, message. To test the application to make sure that the localization worked, all I have to do is just run the application. Once the simulator opens, I just go to the home page, click on Settings, click on General, International, and then from there I can choose my language. So I'm going to test it in Spanish. It's resetting the language. I just run the application again, and voila, it is in Spanish. Now I'm just going to go through real quick and make sure that all of the questions are actually translated. Question 1 looks good. The error message looks good. Number 2 looks good. 3 looks good. 4 looks good. 5 looks good, and our finish page. So that is localization. As a small program developer, I know that it is important to have a process. Whether it's a well-known process or a self-made one, it helps the way that programs are developed. Since the projects I work on are usually small ones, it was difficult for me to use many of the known processes. The problems I had were either the process was too time-consuming or consisted of steps I didn't need. ResPCT has helped me find a process that works for me. While ResPCT was applied to an iPhone application in this project, it can also be applied to many other smaller projects. ResPCT takes 2 well-known processes and combines them to create an efficient and easy process geared toward smaller independent projects. While it still needs more testing and research, I hope that ResPCT can be applied to other programmers with the same issue I had.